Hi folks, my name is Dylan. I'm with Amazon. I am a solutions architect. I'm here with Tyler Warden.
Hey, y'all, I'm Tyler. I look after product at Sonatype.
Today we're talking a little bit about AI. Who's not talking about AI right now? Open source and AI.
Yeah.
The landscape has changed a lot in the last few years. We're seeing open source models really starting to really compete, right? Like they're not, when it first came out, when ChatGPT was first released in 2022, there wasn't this landscape of model selection. Now we're seeing hundreds of models that from various sources and providers. DeepSeek came out last, I think it was this year, maybe even.
Yeah.
And it immediately shook everyone, right? We have Llama with Meta. That's also competing, right? I'd like to hear a little bit about what Sonatype's doing with open source models.
Yeah, look, we have customers that are coming to us, and they frame the challenge this way: is out there in the web, you have Hugging Face. And on Hugging Face, I think we're close to 2 million models now. Large language, machine learning models, visual, all sorts of stuff. And these models are, for all intents and purposes, open source, right? And where organizations have said to us is, hey, look, you help us manage things from NPM, and you help us manage things from Maven and PyPy and Rust and all sorts of other areas. But we're seeing our development teams grabbing Hugging Face models and pulling them into their SDLC. So in the dev and in the build and the deploy side, these models are working their way into data science teams and into application teams. So how can you help us manage that problem space, these AI models? How can you help us govern and manage and secure those as they're getting worked into their products?
So, quick question. Why are customers moving towards open source models on Hugging Face?
Yeah, really, for the same reason that the open source components have grown and exploded to help drive innovation over the past, 20 years. Why do you use open source? It's free. Well, you don't have to pay for it up front. Maybe it's not free to use, but you don't have to pay for it up front. And you get to take advantage of the work of others, right? So I don't need to write a database driver or a database access layer myself. I can just go grab one that's already written, right? And there's this philosophy that if it's open, potentially it can be more secure. People can look and iterate on it and integrate with it. Well, much the same reason with Hugging Face. If I'm going to build and deploy my own software, ship my own software, use it, it's a much different kind of commercial model if I have to pay an OEM and bring it in versus if I can just take a open source model and embed it in my software, use it in my own tooling.
I gotcha. Yeah, there's probably another thing with performance and the size and the variety, right? A lot of models are doing strong things in certain areas. The data it's trained on it can be different as well. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I see dev, build, deploy. I see Hugging Face. I see NPM.
Yeah.
If you've watched any of our other videos, we're seeing a pattern here. I have a feeling Sonatype's going to be plugged in along here somewhere.
Yeah, let's talk about how we help solve these problems. First is we have the same story you might have heard if you watch these other videos around Nexus repository, where these models can be proxied or cached, right? This is about I get a version of the model down, and if I ask for that version via dev or build or deploy or any other stage you may have in your PDLC or SDLC, I'm able to go get that version of the model. I know it's that. I know it's that one that I want. So you've got better build times, more surety of the build. But then you have multiple constituents, right? You have your application security teams, you have your engineering and developer teams, you have your compliance and legal teams that want to be sure that the software that they're writing is compliant, it has very little tech debt, it can move fast, and it's secure, right? So you have these different constituents. That's what needed to ship software in the real commercial world, right? And so what we have done is extended our SCA capabilities, so we call that our lifecycle product, whereby these, at every step of the way, these leaders can use the policy and the scanning capability to go and identify the models that are there, and that's the first part of governance. Hey, what are you using? We can scan those models for vulnerabilities, legal risk, compliance, and that scanning results are powered by our Sonatype intelligence that we have extended to now contain data, information, behavioral analytics, all sorts of stuff from Hugging Face. You can now set policies that look with the scanning to determine what models are being used and do you allow them. And then maybe you have models you don't want to allow in at all. Maybe you don't like their country of origin, you don't like the data they're trained on. We're not here to tell you what your policy should be, but we're here to tell you that you should probably have one. And so our repository firewall can scan those models that are coming in using that same intelligence and could actually block any models that you may not want entered in that don't adhere to whatever policy you have. So just like open source components, open source models can be kind of governed and empowered in very much the same way.
And so the various leaders in the organization, so policy decision makers, the head of engineering, IT folks, compliance folks, they all contribute to this decision-making framework. And,
correct.
Maybe the devs are making a request over here to the engineering leadership. They go talk to their compliance team, then you add that to the repository, and then it's unlocked.
And that's very much about scale, is the policy can do that for you. If it's compliant, use it. Managed by exception is a lot faster than manually reviewing everything. So this is how we're helping organizations govern and manage their open source models when it comes to their software supply chain. How is AWS, if I wanted to use open source models, how would AWS help me kind of manage, execute?
Yeah, great question. I'd say the main thing we're focused on, obviously, at AWS is your infrastructure, right? Mm-hmm. So there are a couple ways that we do open source models at AWS. Starting with everyone's favorite service is Amazon EC2. I think everyone's pretty familiar with EC2 nearly 20 years later. Maybe it might be 18 years. We're probably approaching 20 years, wow, where folks are running their own models directly on EC2, right? Sure. So you deploy it, you use SSH in, but realistically, you have your pipeline deployed to their EC2 instance, right, your favorite way of running your model. The next way, when folks want a little bit more offloaded to Amazon, right? Mm-hmm. So for folks, if we aren't familiar, we have the shared responsibility model that branches to security, that branches to operational excellence. In this scenario, Amazon EC2, we provide you the instance. You have to control the security, the ports being open or closed, for example, exposure to the internet, et cetera. Most folks are pretty familiar with this. When we move down a little step here towards SageMaker, that's the next way we see folks using open source models. This is a kind of a functional managed EC2 instance. So think about deploying your model, but with a little bit more control than you would on a fully managed service. You're not just hitting an API endpoint, right? You are still controlling the instance with a little bit of guardrails around the edge and policies you can set. Maybe if you want to do a bit more of maybe training your own model, like a parent-teacher model, for example, SageMaker is pretty powerful in that regard. The next way we're seeing folks, if they really want it to be managed by AWS, and again, from top to bottom, I would say is unmanaged versus managed, would be Amazon Bedrock. And so there's two ways we are seeing folks use Amazon Bedrock for this use case. So the first one is that AWS has partnered with a lot of the open source model providers like Meta, mm-hmm, DeepSeek, to actually bring these to be fully managed, so that you just select them in the dropdown, or you put it in your SDK, and you call that model. You don't think about it. Bedrock handles it. The other way folks are doing it, so I'll label it just to be super clear. It's like almost like a marketplace of models. Mm-hmm. The other way folks are doing it is with a custom model import. So for maybe the little bit more obscure models that are kind of more niche, where maybe you're getting this from Hugging Face, you're using the custom model import feature to bring those models into Bedrock, where we're going to handle the infrastructure for you, but maybe we're not validating that model and the source origin, et cetera, as much as we would be with the marketplace model approach.
That's great. Well, look, for Dylan and myself, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers.